these letters, but I want you to write your story in golden letters, so that in 20, 30 years from now, the historians who are going to write the history of your family will have a paragraph or a sentence to say, there lived a young girl or a young man who was born in this family, who wrote the history of this family in golden letters. Allow me, as a young boy in class 6, I lost my dad. And when I lost my dad, my mom was just a housewife. My mom never went to school. And therefore, my mom never had any livelihood where she would earn some daily bread for us. And what she did basically is that when we transited from Rift Valley as young boys and came to Central in Murang'a, my mom didn't have any job. And it was double tragedy because he had just lost her husband, and we had just lost the dad we loved the most. And coming to Central, we didn't have any house at all. We came into a bare land. You've buried your dad. It's a bare land. There is no house at all. And what we did, I remember, is that we built makeshift nylon houses for us, my mom, and her 6 children. And I remember, it's clear in my mind as it was then, sometimes it would rain. It would really rain. And I remember my elder brother and I sometimes going down the valley and getting into a cave and staying there. But I remember my mom proposing that, you'll ultimately go to school. You'll ultimately go back to school. But we must build a house. So she gave us a proposal and said, why don't you get employed for at least 9 months, because that was sometimes in March, for the end of this year. Then we have some money to build a shelter which can house all of us. Then you can go back to school. So my elder brother and I dropped out of school and were employed as shamba boys for a whole 9 months. We were paid 10 shillings a day for 9 months. 10 shillings a day times 30, that is 300 times 9 months, that's 2,700 times 2, that is 5,400. So by the end of the year, 89 then, we had 5,400, which we used to basically buy iron sheets and build a small house. That house didn't have gutters, it didn't have doors, but for all intents and purposes, it was actually a major improvement from what we had earlier on. So the following year I went to class, and I can tell you it was not easy, because even buying a school uniform was a big challenge. My mom would go and pluck tea, get paid 30 shillings. That would only afford a packet of unga, 2 kgs packet of unga. And I remember she had contracted a neighbor who had a cow, and we could get 250 milliliters of milk, which would be divided into 2. At night, you take ugali with milk solution, and in the morning, you take milk solution and go to school. And that continued. But there was something my mom always told us, that you should trust in God, your creator. There's a reason why this is happening. And every morning we go to school, she would escort us and tell us, go and work hard. So I had this school uniform. I didn't have a jersey. I remember I had this very bright blue shirt and a gray kaptura. And those of us who come from the foot of Wadea, sometimes it's very cold. We'd wake up very early, and by 6:30, we're in class. At times we'll go without meals. At times without breakfast. But there was always this force that if I have to make a difference, I must forget where I come from and concentrate on my studies. And in class 7 and class 8, you've heard Mwalimu Kibiru say, I worked very hard and became the top boy in Murang'a County in KCP 1991. And I was admitted to Alliance High School that year. But I want to tell you, when I got my results of KCP, I was not so excited. Because for one, if you couldn't afford a dairy meal, if my school uniform was my Sunday best, I didn't have any other clothes. I used to wash it on Friday and iron it. You know those traditional iron boxes. And I used to go to church in that school uniform. And despite that, I was the chairperson of the youth in the parish. And I used to walk some distance to the parish barefoot and in my school uniform. And I would go and chair meetings with people who didn't have a school uniform. It was a Sunday or a Saturday. And I just want you to look back. I know there are instances in your life that you have felt that you're not as privileged as others. But really that doesn't define you. What defines you is what is in your mind that inspires you to see a greater future than today. So I kept on going. And I remember one time a religious person telling me that, you know, Gideon, you need to be a full chairman. You need to buy a trouser and have shoes. But you know, that didn't make sense to me. Actually, I was sharing with a friend of mine a year ago that today is when I realized what that priest meant. Perhaps as a chairman, I needed to have a trouser and some pair of shoes. But that really didn't matter to me then. And you can imagine the only amount of money that my mom had was what she would go out there and pluck tea and bring for her family. So where was I going to get money to take me to Alliance? So I remember telling my mom, and we're coming from church, I told my mom, Mom, why don't you just call some clan elders and church elders to troop into our compound and have a small fundraiser so that we see whether we can get some amount of money to take me to Alliance. And I remember on 22nd, on January, they trooped all in my compound, but they could hardly raise 5,000. It required me 35,000 to get to Alliance then. So this was only a seventh. And after coming and collecting amount of money, they had a recommendation, and they said that, I think this money can only afford a pair of shoes, a school uniform, and a box. So we recommend him to go to a neighboring school where we can afford. And that was the verdict. And I resigned myself to that. And I remember going behind and, shedding all tears of frustration, disappointment, wishing whether my dad was alive and all that. But that didn't help matters much. I remember one man who came then. I think he's now the provost of ACK Church in Murang'a, telling me that, you know what? Don't mourn about your dad. Your dad is gone. I remember him telling, and I reminded him, don't mourn about your dad. Your dad is gone. See it as an opportunity. See it as an opportunity. And I didn't understand him then. But he told me, focus ahead. Work hard. The best gift you can give to your daddy or to this community is to work hard in school. And I picked that. And it kept on ringing in my mind, that I got to take this as an opportunity. But of course, on 23rd, some of you go to get your passport photographs, which are required by your admission letter, right? So we walked into the county headquarters and got all these passports. And I remember getting to Murang'a, and well, I was on the streets, just walking with my cousin, trying to see which is the best place to get this. I got a woman who shouted my name and said, "Hey, young man." Yeah? Shouted, "Hey, Kamau, come here. Come here. You have made our village very popular because for the first time, we're in the newspapers. Come with your cousin. I go and buy you some tea." And my cousin and I followed her, and we got into a hotel called 1-in-1 there. And I remember I was sandwiched between my cousin Rosemary and this lady. And we were taking a cup of tea, and we were talking about the recent developments and the historical moments at that particular time. Indeed, it was unprecedented in that village. It was a talk of the village. But paradoxically, no one came out to assist us. So while we were taking that tea, a man I didn't know just walked in, and when he walked in, he looked at me and said, young man, I know you." Then I say, "I don't know you." Then the lady who was buying us tea became my guardian angel. He told, "You don't know this young man. This young man is the best in the county in KCP." Then the man generated some interest. And this woman, I came to realize he came from my village. And he knew all what we were going through. And this man really empathized. I could see him nod when he was listening to this woman give her narrative about how we have done very well, but how vulnerable we were. So this man listened carefully. And after the motion, he actually went behind us and took his tea, seemed to have been in a hurry, and left. But while he was out, I saw him fidget, pocket, and came back. "Young man, come here. Those of us who know how the chairman speaks. "Young man, come here." So he came, I went, and he asked me, "Is that what I've been told true?" I told him, "Yes. What you have been told is true. My dad is not there. I cannot be able to pay school fees." And he said, "You know what? I want you." That was on 23rd. "I want you and your mother and a clan elder to come here on 26th of January, 1992, with your mother, the clan elder, here at 9. So you can imagine. And he took my documents, my letter of admission to Alliance, and my result slip. And he went. We came there on 26th in the morning, and we found a car waiting for us. And we boarded. I was still in which attire? My school uniform. I was still in my school uniform. And I boarded that car. I remember it was a Trooper KXE 302Y. And we boarded it. It was the first time I was boarding. And went to Nairobi. And to cut the long story short, when we went to Nairobi, he just asked my mom one question. "I want to give me permission to educate this young man." "I want you give me permission to educate this young man." And that was 26th, 27th. My shopping was done 28th. I remember on 28th, my mom coming and taking me to Alliance. And my fees for 4 years was paid by the chairman of Equity Bank, Dr. Peter K. Monga, ABS. And after that, of course, when I went to school, I went now because this is the most interesting part. I didn't look back. You know, small gains lead to greater gains. And I made sure that I am not going to be defined by fear of where I come from. And this is very important for you. You have to choose your life, where you are today, whether you're going to choose hope or fear. Great people, whichever background they come from, I realized at that tender age that you must not fear the future, but you must shape it. I wish you could write that down. That you must not fear the future. You must shape it. That you must always remain hopeful. Hopeful in situations of uncertainty. Hopeful in situations of impossibilities. You must remain hopeful at all times. And I remember, because there are boys here from Alliance, I remember times I'll go to a building called Carrie Francis, and there I'm there reading. I walk around, and I could think about, you know what? It doesn't matter where I come from. My background should not decide my destiny. And what defined me when I was at Alliance was that uniform. That uniform. And the fact that I could share a class with a son of cabinet secretary or an ambassador, that showed that the only opportunity I have to change my life is education. And for me, that is the focus. And of course, with guidance, from our parents, from the school, we made it. By the end of the 4 years, we stayed very, very focused. When we went to the village, every time I went to the village, and I remember with a lot of nostalgia, we'd go to the village, and I remember we would group together every Saturday, every Sunday, and ask ourselves, how would we like to be in the next 15, 20 years? And we said, we can't wait. We have to do now. We were very disciplined. When we went back to the village, we were very disciplined. We went, I remember a friend of mine from Garissa, whom we were together at Alliance, Abdikadir Muhammad, would tell me, we're going to go to the village. And he was also under sponsorship. And we said, you know what? We must be disciplined, even in the village. We must be role models, even in the village. We must make sure that we maximize our time during the holidays. We must make sure that wherever we do reflects where we are going. We didn't go back to the village to show that I'm from Alliance, to show I am the brightest boy, to show I am the brightest girl. We went to the village and exposed a lot of humility. And we were involved in community activities. We'd go to youth groups, we'd go to church, we'd go to clean the church, we'd go for youth sessions. We were involved in any community engagement. And that helped us a lot. In fact, I was telling the CEO of Equity the other day that I think that prepared us to go back to our community and serve them. Because even today, we go back, support schools, mentor schools. And that laid the foundation. And I want to challenge you. When you go home over the holiday, what do? You can go to that hospital, visit the sick. You can go to that old people's home. Go to them and talk to them. Appreciate them. They are aging gracefully. But thank them for the legacy they are leaving behind for us. Go to an orphanage where young folks have not seen their parents. Go there and tell them, we appreciate, we know your parents are no longer with us, but we are here to give you hope. That is what success in life is all about. And I think at that tender age, we learned to give to our community. And it's not about giving money. It's giving our time, giving our ideas. And that laid the foundation of what we are doing today. And I want to tell you, after Alliance went to the university, the focus was the same. The lessons from high school prepared us for the life at the university. And there is one simple truth, one simple principle that has guided me through all. And one is that, if there is something that defines success, all of us are scholars here, if there's really something that defines success, it's humility. Can you write that down? If there is something that really defines success, is humility. We must be humble. We must really be humble. We must realize that in this world, there are so many people out there who may have wanted to have this opportunity that we have of wings to fly. But God knew that I'm going to be born where I was born. God knew very well that I will not be in a position to pay that. But God had a solution. That Equity Wings to Fly will come at an appropriate time and lift me up and pay my school fees for 4 years. God knew that. And that in itself should really humble you. That in itself should really humble you. That at the end of the day, God has taken care of me. Allah has taken care of me. And I want every time, and I want to request this of you, that every time you walk around your school, every time you walk around this amphitheater, even as you go to bed tonight, always remember that great and successful people are very humble. You just need to meet my chairman, or meet James Mwangi, or you'll be meeting, when Ukibiru tells me you'll be meeting another guest today. I want you to look at them. Successful people don't just thump. They look at that success and blessing as an opportunity God has given to them to be a blessing to others. That's how they view it. They don't say, I am so bright in chemistry. The other one is not bright. I don't care. I am so good in English. The others are not. I don't care. Successful people and humble people say, I am so good in chemistry. They extend a hand of friendship to the others and ask, can I help you? Can I help you balance this equation? Can I help you in trigonometry? Can I help you in this area? That is what successful people do. They realize, and I want you to write this, that their success, my success, is intertwined with the success of others. Can you write that down? That my success is intertwined with the success of others. And I remember, therefore, at the university worked very hard, got the right company, listened to our parents' advice and our guardians' advice. Avoid bad company. Be very careful. Because remember what I told you. You must write the story of your family. The story of your family is very, very great. I was telling my son the other day, Brian, who is in Form 3 at Alliance now. I was telling him, every time we go home, I tell him, you know what? We go to where his grandfather is buried. And I tell him, here is my grandfather. He's buried here. He wrote his story. He's long gone. Here is my father, who happens to be your grandfather. He's buried here. He wrote his story. He's long gone. Your dad here is writing his story. He will be gone. You must write your story. And your story must be better than your dad's, your grandfather, and your great-grandfather. I want you today, young scholars, with a lot of humility, think about your family story. You are the one who is going to write the story of your family in golden letters. I have never been hopeful than I am about your future. I have never been. My story is your story. You have to seize the moment. You have to look into the future. You have to shape that future. You should not fear that future. That in uncertainty, in hopelessness, you must be a prisoner of hope all the time. That when you are down, when you feel that you are at the deepest point of the valley, that is a time you raise your eyes up, look at the tallest mountain and say, I gonna climb. We must be prisoners of hope. We must always know that despite our circumstances, that spirit that has always guided those great generations before us, that spirit of overcoming, that spirit of saying, I am not going to give up, that spirit, I have a 20%, I'll get a 90%, that spirit that has shaped our heroes, we must embrace it. We must embrace it today, and we must run with it. We must know that we are a special generation. We must know that our country, our families, our community needs us. That just like that star in the sky that occupies an objective reality alone, that you are that objective reality. You are not any other person. That you're gonna succeed. And that's the spirit that defined us. That ruthlessness of knowing that I must work hard despite where I come from. I must not empathize from where I come from. I must not feel sorry about where I come from. I have that great future, and that is where I want to go. You must be strong. You must really be strong. You know, you must say, I got better days ahead. Can all of us do this? I got better days ahead. I got better days ahead. My future can only be better. I want to shout, I got better days ahead. My future can only be better. I got better days ahead, man. Are we together? So I want today, as you meet, can you tell your friend, you know what? I got better days ahead. Can you look at your friend? You know, my future can only be better. Now, after that, of course, I worked very hard at the university and went and got a scholarship, a full scholarship. You can imagine a young man whose only asset was his school uniform, got a scholarship and was admitted to Harvard. You know, this was a dream come true. For the first time I got into a plane, KLM flight, flew from JKIA, went to Heathrow, across Atlantic to the US. I had never imagined. And when I got there, I remember, I got there, and most of you will go there, I know. Most of you will go there. You'll go to Harvard, you go to Yale, you'll go to Stanford. You will go there because we don't fear the future, we shape it. Can you say that after me? We don't fear the future, we shape it. Are we together? So you can imagine, I landed at Cambridge Village, and I got this professor who had taught in Harvard for 25 years. He was in his late 80s. I was just a young man. And I remember sitting down in Harvard, there's a place where professors and students sit. It's called the Cambridge Village. And I remember sitting there, and I remember this professor telling me, young man, come here and sit here. Asked me, which part of the world do you come from? I told him, I come from Africa, in a country called Kenya. And he told, young man, congratulations. I have been teaching here for the last 25 years. I am Professor Wallenberger from Kiev in Ukraine. And I want to tell you that as you sit down and take this cup of tea, the difference between me and you is just time. Are we together? The difference between you and me is just what? He told me I happen to have been born earlier than you. That is why I am here. But if you work hard, follow the instructions, you're going to be even greater than me. So I was there, worked hard as well, got a distinction. And the dean recommended me to work in New York at the UN Security Council. So I worked there for 9 months as a legal political advisor for the whole of the Balkan region, Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro, the whole of that region, advising on the legal and policy framework, because those countries were emerging from war. You can imagine, from that cave, you remember where we came from, isn't it? But did it shape where I was going? No. I got focused. So from there, worked hard, came here, worked at the UN as well, yeah, on the same policies, a legal political advisor for the whole of the Horn of Africa, all the way from Djibouti, yeah, to Beira in Mozambique, trying to advise the UN on, policy and legal framework from emerging countries which had experienced a lot of conflict, Djibouti, Somalia, South Sudan, you know all of them. But Harvard followed me and told me, you know what, young man, we want to give you a scholarship for your PhD. They still followed. And they told me, you have to be in a university. So I left the UN and joined the university. And they sponsored my full scholarship for PhD at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. You see, hard work pays. Hard work and focus, sense of focus. Don't be distracted by these small things. You go to the village and don't be distracted. Be like that lion. When a lion is chasing a leopard, a gazelle, it has targeted this gazelle. It doesn't matter whether a rabbit comes here. Are we together? It doesn't matter whether a rabbit comes by the side to the left or to the right. It is focused. That is how you should be. That is how you should be. But you must find yourself great. You must feel great inside for you to maintain such a sense of focus. What makes great people is that feeling in themselves that they are great people. What drives you is what comes within yourself. That I have this great destiny. I am a great young man. I am a great young lady. That is what drives you. Don't feel weak. Don't think that because you come from this background that other people are better than you. But you do that, as I've said, with a lot of humility. So I came back to Kenya. Went to the university as a young boy in mid-20s. Taught at USIU. Started the faculty. I was sharing with the Vice Chancellor of USIU yesterday when we met the President at State House as Vice Chancellors yesterday. As a young man, started a faculty there. Yeah, started moot court there. Then after some time realized I got an opportunity at the University of Nairobi. Within 1 year left and got an opportunity at Catholic University as a senior lecturer of international law and political science. Then rose, became the dean of the faculty, right? After 2.5 years, became the dean of students of almost 8,000 students. And within 1 year, I was the DVC in charge of student affairs at Catholic University, almost 10,000 students then. And all this time, just note, all this time, I remember when I left Form 4, the chairman of Equity, I remember telling James, James saying, come and, you should come and join Equity. And I remember them saying, no, you cannot, you need to go and study. You need to go and what? You don't need work. You need to go and study. You go and study. So within 4 years, we were just seeing each other. We didn't talk much with the chairman and James. We didn't talk much until when I saw an advert. I saw an advert of Pioneer International University advertising for I remember I saw the advert and I applied for the job. And I remember there were so many people who applied. And when I went there, I think the chairman just felt, no, this is the right person for the job. This is the right person for the what? You can see, I didn't know that I will go that way, then come, then apply for this, and now you're there. What is the lesson there? What is the lesson? You know, and he has always told me, and he has told many other people, when I assisted you, I don't want you to assist me back. What I did to you, do to many others. Do to what? Many others. And I think that is what the Wings to Fly and Equity Foundation want you to do. So, young scholars, I know I could talk a lot. I know I could share a lot. But I want to conclude by saying this. Please, as you live here, you have heard my story. And it's just an iota of it. I want, as you live here, as you walk around today, remember that your background should never define your future. The fact that you're sleeping on a goat skin doesn't mean you're not asleep on a golden bed. The fact that you don't have something to eat today doesn't mean that you're not going to have it tomorrow. I am hopeful. I am grateful. We thank God every day for you. Don't let your family down. Don't let your society down. Don't let Equity Foundation down. Don't let your country down. And as I've said, I am more hopeful. Please know this, that you shall overcome. You shall overcome. Despite what is happening, you shall overcome. And all of us know that song. I conclude with it. That Martin Luther King, when America was faced by civil rights insurgency, he rallied people and told them that despite what we are going through, we shall overcome. And he mobilized blacks, whites, Latinos, and all of them met in downtown DC at Lincoln Memorial, where they sang this immortal song, and you know it. And I want you to learn it. And every time you're down, sing it. Deep in my heart, I do believe someday we'll all be free. Someday we'll all be free. Someday we'll all be free. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Thank you very much. I now want to entertain only one question. Just one question. Because of time. I'm sure I'll meet you sometime. One question. One burning question. One burning question. Yes, there's a lady there.
And as we get that question, who wants to give Daktari feedback? On behalf of the rest of you, let me know.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shelmith Ndungu from Tumutumu Girls, Kayole branch, and today I think it's my day. Yeah, I can say it's my day because I've met one of the greatest people that I cherish in my life, one of my greatest role models, one of my mentor, and as he said earlier that he normally mentors schools, I request that I be amongst the list of those students who are being mentored by him. Actually, he's my career mate. I remember one day at home, I told my relatives that, you see, when I finish my Form 4 and I join university, I want to do law and I want to do political science. I'm so much passionate about it, and my greatest dream is to become the first woman an Attorney General in Kenya. Wow. So, yeah, I made that decision when I was in my primary school, and I remember when we were being oriented and we were given the scholarships for Wings to Fly in Kasarani last year. I remember that I was interviewed by one of the NTV presenters because of my career. I had given out my agenda to our branch manager, and that made him proud. So I would request that I be given an opportunity to personally speak to Dr. Gilbert because
Gideon.
Mr. Gideon, because we have a lot in common. We have many things in common. Actually, I'm very overwhelmed. Even I don't know what to say. All I will request, Mwalimu, is just give me an opportunity. Before he leaves, let me have a word with him, please.
As soon as you are done with your remarks, you come here.
Thank you.
Okay. Today we have a very tight morning, and that's why when you find me tell you let's start in good time, is because we have our next two speakers with us. And let me first of all invite her to move a vote of thanks, and then I will complete my announcement.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bridget Karemi from our branch. I have a question to you, Dr. Gideon. What challenges do you face what challenges did you face, and how you managed to cope with them during your high school time? And what were your strengths and weaknesses, and how you managed to conquer your weaknesses? Thank you.
Yeah, what are the challenges? The challenges, of course, were, one, at times I felt low because sometimes I didn't have books. But what I did is I made friends in school who had textbooks and they would help me. That was a great challenge to me. The other one, of course, was, going when the school holiday came, I'm going home. There were challenges in terms of how do I get my, pocket money and all that. And we would go out there with my mother, pluck tea, and immediately after that, get something. So these challenges were there. But I remember these challenges worked as opportunities for me. They always sharpened and said, well, I want to have a better tomorrow. All of us have challenges in school and out of school. But turn them around to be opportunities for lessons. Even when it's very painful. When you don't have food, turn it as an opportunity, as I've said. When you don't have school fare, turn it as an opportunity. When you think about where you come from, I have told you, because we are human beings, you think about your parents, how they are. Sing that song, I shall overcome. I shall what? I shall overcome. I want to thank you very much, and I wish you God's blessings today and the many days to come. Thank you.
One promise I want to give you scholars is that as we meet next year, Form 3s will be in Form 4, Form 2s will be in Form 3. Dr. Gideon Maina will still be with us. I know we can share more. And I want to apologize for a very tight morning. I know he's a very resourceful person. That's why I went looking out for him. I have had him engage with scholars, and I know there's still quite some bit you have not got from him. So, Dr. Hari, thank you very much. You have had it from that girl.
Yes.
That is also on behalf of the program staff. Thank you very much.
Okay, you are welcome to Pioneer International University. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And by the way, anytime when you have issues, I'll also be sharing you his email so that you can also communicate to him even in the course of your